Democrats and the liberal media on a new tear today to prove President Trump is unfit to lead. The day started off with another meltdown from the left over tough language used at last week's immigration meeting.
You're under oath. You and others in that room that suddenly cannot remember. Your silence and your amnesia is complicity. I hurt. When Dick Durbin called me, I had tears of rage when I heard about this experience in that meeting. And for you not to feel that hurt and that pain and to dismiss some of the questions of my colleagues, saying I've already answered that line of questions when tens of millions of Americans are hurting right now because of what they're worried about what happened in the White House. That's unacceptable to me.
And then later this afternoon, it almost sounded like the mainstream media was disappointed when they couldn't get the president's doctor to say he wasn't in good health physically and mentally. I was glued to this all afternoon. So the president's doctor came out and gave the guy a clean bill of health, Greg. And as you've said, this is the most transparent president ever. And the fact that they gave specific details about his diet, his exercise, even his mental faculties makes you think, God, what else is there to know?
Well, first of all, I think it's Cory Booker who needs a cognitive exam. I think he was losing his mind or just overacting a little bit. The best part of this press conference were reporters grilling this guy about diet and exercise. Have you ever seen a reporter's diet? Have you ever seen a reporter exercise? You saw that disheveled mess in the back. I can't think of his name. It's some guy.
That doesn't narrow it down.
Exactly. His hair's all over. He was asking about cholesterol. That guy, inhales cholesterol. They have the health of a hobo. Trump, you have to understand, I think a lot of young people don't get this. He's your old school uncle. There's no Pilates. There's no meditation. There's no organic kale. He eats what's in front of him, usually covered in ketchup. But then he's healthier than a yoga instructor because he's healthy like a bull as opposed to healthy like a ballet dancer. It's like old school health. He might be like this forever, but then he might drop. But that's everybody knows yep. These kinds of people.
Strong like bull.
Yeah, so they're just they don't do what you're supposed to do. They just do what they want.
Yep.
So he eats whatever he wants, and he doesn't exercise except when he plays golf, Kimberly. But he doesn't smoke tobacco, never has, and doesn't drink. And the doctor actually says that if he hadn't eaten all this McDonald's his whole life, he could have been 200 years old and still been kicking. But he's got great stamina. He barely sleeps, I think 4 to 5 hours a day. What was your assessment of the president's exam?
Well, I mean, it's in keeping with how people that are close to him know that his health and physical condition is. In that, he is active with golf. He loves to play golf. And he has, I guess, a very good genetic composition in terms of, he's able to enjoy good health and get good numbers. And this is what he was telling people. But now he's got, the additional proof to back it up. And I don't know. I mean, maybe the important thing, too, is he doesn't drink, alcohol and he's not smoking. And I think that also probably helps him a lot.
Absolutely. And
the smoking, not the drinking.
The president himself requested, Dana, the cognitive exam. And
right.
I think it was obviously to put to rest a lot of the commentary from the press about his mental faculties. And they gave him the hardest level, and he scored 30 for 30.
Yeah.
And does it put to rest the claim that the president is mentally unfit?
Yeah, so the Democrats are going to have to come to the realization that all the things that they hate that he's doing with his full faculties. Okay, so
what does that make him feel now?
I think he also asked the doctor to stand up there as long as it took to answer all of their questions so that they couldn't say they got stonewalled on anything. And so obviously he's in excellent health. One of the questions was about how could it possibly be that he's in such good health? And one of the things is genetics. Mm-hmm. Certainly. But also, I do think that there's something to be said about abstaining from alcohol, drugs, and tobacco. I know, but if you look at some of these folks that are able to do that in their lives, they end up being pretty healthy. Look at Mitt Romney was like that. And I think that I will not be able to put
name
down
another
the red
one.
line. Well, I was thinking about 43 because he. One of the things that the media obsessed with him was that he had drank until he was 40, and then he stopped drinking. But every year when we did the physical, they obsessed over how many cigars did he smoke.
Interesting.
And that was going to be the thing that was going to be the sure issue that made him not be able to be president.
So, Juan, the myth about the president's unfitness mentally has been busted by the White House doctor himself.
Wait a second. I
Would
think
you
said
care
it was a cognitive exam, not a psychological exam.
Yes, a cognitive
Right.
exam.
So
And he
that's
scored
very
30
different.
for 30.
That's different than saying that, oh, all the narcissism, all the impulsiveness, that's okay, that's normal. He didn't say that. He
President
said
Obama was never
cognitively.
narcissist at all, right?
I
Didn't he
don't
say
know.
he was
I'm
going
not
to
talking-
lower the sea levels himself?
Well, being a
wanna
jerk,
change the
in your
topic,
opinion,
right?
is not a
Go
mental
ahead and
condition.
change
I want to
the
talk
topic.
about president's
Right,
fitness all day.
So here's the president's fitness. You know, he did very well on this exam, right? And you should give him credit where credit is due. But I think what you guys are up to is saying, look at these reporters. And by the way, Gregory,
Yes.
I exercise and I try to eat well.
Uh-huh.
Okay,
That's
so
your problem.
So I think the big problem is that someone who is not drinking, not smoking dope, not doing anything, somehow in the middle of the night is sending out these offensive tweets. That might be the news. But to me, he's in good health, and that should be acknowledged. But the reporters, I think, had every right to ask questions about, well, what's going on with this guy who eats McDonald's and behaves in this way, trying to get at some understanding of what is at the root of his dysfunction at times.
Well, I think what you're trying to diagnose a personality as a medical condition. Sometimes, effective bosses, you don't have to like them. You can be a jerk. I've said it before. I'd rather have a jerk doctor who saves my kid's life than a charming doctor who lets the kid die. So the fact is, when Acosta asked the same question, well, that was a cognitive exam. It wasn't a psychiatric one. Is that? And then they go, yes, that's right. He goes, aha. So he is crazy. No, you cannot.
You accuse Juan of stealing CNN Jim Acosta's
Well, I
question.
mean, no. Juan wasn't watching it, but you can predict. You can predict this stuff.
I actually think we have some sound from these reporters asking about the president's fitness.